Okay, people turning to the internet for all kinds of matches these days. Even lawyers are getting in on the action. Time magazine recently profiling the website whocanisue.com, set to launch next month to help people determine if they have a case. And even though that rarely stops them, and to hook them up with an attorney. Are sites like these making people more litigious? Should corporate America be worried? We have a street fight. Jeff Lichtman, plaintiff attorney with Trollman, Glazer, and Lichtman. Also the what? Oh, the former president of the New York State Trial Lawyers Association. And Susan Dwyer, partner with Herrick Feinstein, joins us as well. Susan, I'll start with you. In the notes here, I was struck by this sentence. Anytime you want to focus people on who can we blame as opposed to what happened, that's bad. Who can we blame is the name of the game, isn't it, for lawyers?
It's the name of the game, unfortunately. If the big question is, should corporate America be worried, I think the answer is all of America should be worried. If you have a legal system that is creating claims, finding ways to make a claim so that there has to be a response by a company in litigation that drives up the cost of goods, it clogs the courthouses and denies access to legitimate claims, and it keeps the country from being able to compete in a global economy.
And I'm sure, Jeffrey, you agree.
Oh, definitely. The constant refrain about how we're supposed to be protecting corporate America from itself always amazes me. Really, all we're talking about here with a website is an opportunity for consumers to get information and possibly access if they've been injured, I guess, if we're talking about personal injury, and that's germane to me because I represent people who've been seriously hurt in accidents. But the idea that we have something to fear and that America should be afraid of its ability to compete in the global economy because someone is giving access.
Number one cause for corporate America, though, is tort. Frivolous lawsuits.
Yeah, you have statistics to suggest that that's true. I haven't seen anything to suggest that.
A lot of Wall Street strategists do believe that that is true. They say that the cost of the system of fighting litigation, some of which no doubt is merited, but a lot of which is not, is hampering competitiveness in this country.
It's an argument that has been tried so many times. It fails. It's not accurate. It's not true. As a matter of fact, they talked about frivolous litigation when plaintiffs' lawyers decided it was time that tobacco own up to the fact that they were promoting a drug that was killing people. And if you all recall back to the New York Times front page when they all stood up and said, we swear to tell the truth that tobacco isn't killing people, it's just can't buy it. The idea that people can get information and get access to get help, that's important.
You have to look at this as the gimmick that it is. People have lots of ways to get hooked up with lawyers who can represent them, and they should have access to the courts when they have legitimate claims. But when the premise of the website is, and by the way, they can't even get the English usage right, who can I sue instead of whom can I sue? Right. You have to watch out that these guys are going to be the watchdogs for corporate America and keep them on the straight and narrow. No, this is about... And by the way, this advance for this website is you're going to answer 5 to 10 questions. It'll take you 2 to 3 minutes. While you're answering the questions, 5 ads for lawyers who have paid to have their ads flash in front of you are going to come up, and when you hit the last question, boom, you can go to the lawyer that paid the most for that practice area. That's no way to determine, do you have a legitimate claim? What kind of lawyer would ask 10 questions and take on a lawsuit? It's about shaking the trees and signing up clients. That's how it works.
Susan, is that a fair point? Well, the idea that an individual can go onto the computer and have several questions answered, and from that link get to a lawyer who's prepared to answer questions and give advice, I think that's pretty amazing in our society. What makes you think that just because someone is sitting back in their house or their apartment who's had, I guess we're talking about accidents here, who is hurt, is necessarily going to have a claim? The whole concept of frivolous when it comes to these claims is silly. Lawyers, although we do good, and we do a lot of good, we're not in it as philanthropists. And lawyers aren't taking on cases that are frivolous. The idea, well, as I sit here in the stock exchange, is to make money.
Mark is a lawyer. I come from a family of lawyers.
You instantly got Susan and me to twitch when you said that. But that leads me to a point, though, Susan. I mean, isn't part of the problem, to broaden out the discussion a little, isn't part of the problem that the courts and the judges are very reluctant to use the tools already at their disposal to quash frivolous suits.
Very reluctant. And if you look at the model of medical malpractice, okay, that's where we did something. We did something right. I think you'd have to agree, Mr. Lichtman, that you no longer are at risk taking frivolous medical malpractice cases that cost a lot of money for you to pursue and take a lot of your time. We put in place tort reform, med malpractice reform. In order to get to the step of bringing a lawsuit, you have to be vetted. It isn't 2 to 5 questions in 3 minutes. You have to satisfy a panel of experts that you have a viable claim. That's what we need in this country. If we're going to have litigants who can find lawyers this way, we need some way to curb their ability to bring suits that just clog up the courthouse.
Like the McDonald's
15
coffee.
seconds, last word.
The famous
You know,
McDonald's
every time a lady says to me, the McDonald's coffee, no one understands just how seriously that woman's private parts were damaged. Seriously damaged.
I agree.
And everyone
Whose
wants to say
fault is
McDonald's
it?
coffee.
I agree.
Whose
The
fault was
question
it?
is, whose
McDonald's
fault?
was overheating their coffee. They paid damages of, what was it now, Mark? You'll tell me.
I
less
forget, but
less
it was
than what they
reduced.
make in coffee in a
was
day.
reduced.
It was greatly reduced.
It's
yeah.
a silly thing to bring up, and it's
But
not
she
fair.
put the coffee cup
Gotta
in her
go.
lap, Jeff.
Please.
Oh, boy. Thanks to Jeff Lichtman and Susan Dwyer. Thank you very much for joining us. Aaron.
My
Thank
final check on the markets. First thing let's do, let's kill all the lawyers. Mark, we'll be right back.